So I kind of made myself a promise that I wouldn't make any more videos that weren't scripted, because when I do make them, I end up forgetting everything I want to say, and I also just fill silence with uhs and ums, and I hate going into editing and hearing myself, say and and whatnot and all these sort of filler things. But what usually happens is if I get an idea and I kind of don't act on it immediately, then I lose all motivation to even do it. And I really wanted to do this because I it's fascinating to see like who I was 14 years ago, and how far I've come, and just some of the wild nutty stuff that I've gotten to do, some of the really cool stuff that I've gotten to do. I've been so insanely, unbelievably, unreasonably lucky with some things in my life. And one of those things that I was super, super lucky with was meeting the Kids in the Hall. So, in case you don't already know, the Kids in the Hall recently released their 20 years later kind of season 6 of their show, The Kids in the Hall. And it's been wonderful. It's on Prime. It's so great. I mean, I would probably sort of tune out any negative feedback I was hearing about it, but I honestly have not heard anyone say anything bad about the new episodes. I mean, I think the worst criticism I've heard is that there's not enough of them. There's just not enough of the episodes. There's 8 of them, and they're so funny. I definitely wasn't worried about whether or not they still had it. I knew they did, but I did worry about if I would sort of compare them to the nostalgia of the classic episodes. But I think it was really easy for me to just judge those episodes on their own, which was very nice because that's what they deserve. They definitely don't deserve me or anyone sort of trying to compare it to the stuff from the original run of their TV show. But it seems like everyone has been judging the episodes on their own. In addition to that, there was a documentary that got released. It's called The Kids in the Hall Comedy Punks. It's really good. It's so well paced and so well done, and the guys feel very honest in it, even in situations where it makes them look bad or it makes someone else look bad. I think they've just had enough time to really work their shit out with each other and accept that they all, at certain points in the troop's life, did really horrible things or said really horrible things. And so it's just a really good top-down view of their entire career from the very beginning to now with the new show. And there's a lot of like archival footage that has never been released before. A lot of anecdotes and whatnot I had never heard of. So yeah, if you have Amazon Prime, absolutely go watch season 6 of Kids in the Hall and the documentary Kids in the Hall Comedy Punks. Just amazing, amazing stuff. So of course, all of this sort of resurgence of Kids in the Hall stuff got me just thinking about my personal relationship with the kids, having been a fan for so long. I mean, a fan since I was 12. They were a huge, huge part of my adolescence. They were a huge part of getting through my adolescence. They gave me an outlet. They gave me a community. They made me feel less alone. They made me feel more comfortable with myself, with my, outlook on things. I really cannot explain exactly how vital the kids were for me growing up and discovering them when I did. So seeing kind of everything happening right now. Like, it feels like the kids are, getting their due, or, receiving their flowers, or however you say it. A little late, but better late than never. And I hope it continues to happen. They really have contributed so much to comedy and, LGBTQIA plus. There's a lot of letters in there. Representation, and yeah, I really don't. There are no words for just how important they are to comedy and just media in general. Anyway, so all of that, it made me sort of think back to being on the internet, like in the early 2000s or so, when I first got internet and was first really sort of getting to know people in the Kids in the Hall fandom that had sort of formed online. And of course, I had a Livejournal back in the day. And in 2008, when I met them, I wrote a very long entry about meeting them. And it is parts embarrassing, but also like parts kind of charming. Like there's something it was 2008, so I was probably like maybe like 19, 20, around somewhere around there when I met them. So I met them in 2008, like I said, and it was March 22nd. And I start this by saying there's really no way to prepare to meet your idols. Sure, you can pore over their work in marathon fashion if you have it on DVD, or spend countless hours reading fan encounter stories and looking at fan pictures, but chances are your pictures won't look anything like that, and your story won't read anything like that either. I'm pretty sure I had like been just obsessively going through people's stories as they were meeting the kids on that tour. So the first two tours were in 2000 and 2002. It was like the reunion tour in 2000 and then the tour of duty in 2002. And I just did not have access to internet at that point. So I did not know those were happening until I got online in 2003 and found out about the Same Guys Who Dresses documentary DVD and in the tour of duty DVD. By the time they were going on tour again in 2008, I had internet. I knew people. I had friends to go with. So it was just kind of like the perfect kind of opportunity, for all that to happen. All right, the second paragraph of this goes, I don't know why the Kids in the Hall appealed to me at such a young age. I was 12 when I first started watching the show, and most of the times I didn't get the jokes. I remember laughing whenever the studio audience would laugh, but I kept watching. I mean, they certainly aren't a bad looking group of guys. I remember very vividly declaring my love of Bruce McCullough to a friend and telling her I wanted to take him to prom. And I think anyone with an open mind can find some humor in those 5 good-looking guys wearing heels and dresses better than your mom does. So that I still remember that. I still remember it was my friend Jennifer, and we were in middle school. And again, because I did not have a community of kids fans around me, I just forced one. And Jennifer was one of the very first people that I made her watch an episode of Kids in the Hall with me. And it was after school because that was when it aired on Comedy Central, and we were on the phone together, and we were watching the title sequence, and Bruce's title sequence came up, and that was when I said it. That was when I declared it. I was like, I'm gonna take Bruce McCullough to prom. And I don't know if I had any sense of them being older than they were during the show. I don't know what the thought process was. I think it was just like, I think Bruce is very cute and and very funny and very weird and very twitchy, and all those things are appealing to me, and he should be my prom date. Spoiler alert, I did not take Bruce to prom. I actually did not graduate high school. I dropped out. I have a GED, but yeah, so that didn't happen. But It was a very 12-year-old thought. Like I had no concept of like anything that was inappropriate. Like, and I'm happy about that. It wasn't like I'm going to like have a family with Bruce or anything. It was just like I'm gonna take him to prom. Like I find something very innocent and very kind of endearing about that. My and Liz's car ride to Orlando was pretty uneventful for the most part, but not boring in any way. We had a slight scare at a Wendy's when we overheard a news report of there being some fires or something in Orlando, but we resolved our fears of a cancellation with a quick call to the Hard Rock. I vaguely remember that. I vaguely remember us like hearing some sort of report and then like being nervous. I think it was one of those things where it just everything had just aligned so well. Like Liz had driven from Indiana to Georgia so that we could drive to the Orlando show, and everything had worked out really well. And I was so worried about something going wrong that I think I expected the weather to just fuck it up and like to cancel the show or you know, prevent us from getting to the show somehow. So that was definitely, I feel like I was the one that probably prompted us to call the Hard Rock and make sure that the show was still happening. That feels like a very like paranoid Amanda move. We talked about the kids, of course, and she told me some funny stories and whatnot about some of her previous times seeing them and the people she's encountered on her travels. So Liz, I love you, Liz. Hopefully she doesn't mind me saying this, but like Liz is my favorite fan of anything. She loves with such a passion and a commitment that if she is behind you, if she supports you, like she is coming to several fucking shows. So I think by the time Liz and I were going to the Orlando show, I think she had already gone to like 3 shows, maybe 4. I need to kind of confirm with her, but that becomes important later. But yeah, so Liz had been to several shows on this tour. We also listened through Shane Baseman and Drunk Baby Project, which is something I've always wanted to do since I don't have any Kids in the Hall fans around me who could appreciate Bruce's humor like that. But in the way of getting pulled over or finding out we were driving in the wrong direction for 100 miles or anything like that, fortunately, uneventful. Yes, thankfully. It was hot and muggy in Orlando. We got there terribly early and went straight to City Walk, which is the magical little area between Universal's Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios where the Hard Rock is. We spent a lot of time walking around, talking or sitting outside the Hard Rock, wondering what people were purchasing tickets for from the box office. One of our stints sitting outside paid off slightly. We saw Dave Foley come out of an area of the Hard Rock. I think me and Liz both had a "is that really Foley" moment. We both realized it was him by his walk, though. If you're a Kith fan, you know Dave has a very unmissable, unmistakable walk, which is very, very true. I think at the time we were calling it the Dave Foley Shuffle. There's actually a video that we recorded on City Walk after we saw Dave, because it felt like a moment. So I had my camera with me, and it was a really shitty camera with like really shitty video recording capabilities, but we recorded both of us sort of talking about the moment that we saw Dave Foley just like walk out of the Hard Rock. It was in the grand scheme of things, it was so uneventful, but I don't know. I think we were just like fucking bored, and we had a camera, so we recorded us like talking about seeing Dave Foley, and if I remember to, I'll like splice part of that video in there somewhere, or part of at least one of the videos in there.
Okay, so far, we've been here for a few hours, and we've seen Dave Foley just randomly walking out of the Hard Rock Cafe. Not because we were like stalking or anything, totally weren't stalking.
Not at all.
But so we're walking around now, and we're unofficially sort of looking for Dave, I guess.
Yeah, sort of hoping.
It was really interesting. We spent like most of our time trying to figure out if we were actually going to go up to him and say anything or not, which we should have, even though he was looking for someone, so maybe we would have annoyed him or something. What do you want me to say? I don't know. Just, well, tell what's happened so far.
Okay.
Like our culture shock.
So far, well, we saw Dave outside the Hard Rock, and we freaked out. I was like, oh my God, it's Dave. And then Dave looked over, and then he walked away.
And he
walked back in. Then he was getting sunglasses, and then saw him again. He came out again, and he walked away. We watched him do the day walk on the hike.
He sort of looked around as if he were looking for someone, turned back around, and went inside behind the wall he emerged from. We got up and looked for him, but he disappeared pretty quickly. So while we went back to sit down and dork out about seeing him, he came out again and actually looked over at us, almost as if he was contemplating coming over to us, as much as we were about to go over to him. He later told us that he thought he recognized Liz, but didn't think there was any way she'd be in Orlando. I wish I would have yelled something, like his name, to get his attention before he fully strolled off to get lost in the sea of people on City Hall. Again, Dave has a very noticeable gait. It's like this, I can't even describe it. When you see it, even if it's from behind, you know it's Dave Foley. He just has a very, very distinct walk to him. It's Dave Foley Shuffle. Amazing. We developed a real hyper awareness eating at the Hard Rock after we spotted Dave. Everybody that passed by felt like it had the possibility of being one of the guys. We knew it most likely wouldn't be, but having confirmation that we were actually in the area was really exciting. Liz got overpriced chicken strips. And I got a really overpriced ice cream that I didn't even get halfway through due to my nerves being on end by that point. Around 7 p.m., they started letting people in. We had front row, and I would have had a great spot to take pictures from had the Hard Rock not been stupid about us having cameras. In any case, the wait at first wasn't too bad. It was actually pretty fun. The kids really do have a diverse group of fans, and it was highly entertaining seeing all those people trickle in to fill the place. I remember being very taken aback by how diverse of a crowd it was. And this is actually something that you hear a lot when the kids talk about performing, or when you hear fans talk about going to shows, just sort of looking around and realizing there's like every sort of race, color, and creed there, and every gender, every sexual orientation. It's such a diverse group of people. The span of people that their comedy sort of talks to and connects with is absolutely, there's no limits to it. By 8:05, the show was a tad late. It was hitting me that I was about to see the kids in the hall. They shaped my sense of humor. They've inspired a lot of what I've done creatively over the years. The first fan site I ever ran was for them. And most importantly, the whole reason I have even found such amazing people in my life, Marie, Liz, and Justine, was because of them. Liz, Marie, Justine, those are the three people that I think I met first in the fandom. And as I record this, we are all like in a Facebook Messenger group where we've been just like nerding out about the kids, being back. Not that they ever went anywhere. And just sort of catching up and nerding out together. It feels very 2003 right now, and we're all just kind of getting a kick out of it and reliving, our best lives from 20 years ago. But it's been a lot of fun, and I love all those girls so much, and and I'm really happy that we're all still in touch and we all still connect through the kids. The lights dimmed and they opened with the pre-taped, I can't say that word, Kevin, so I'll put it somewhere on the screen. That sketch, which was funnier to me with the atmosphere buzzing the way it was. And then, even though I couldn't think of a more wrong time or place to do it, I started crying. Which is a theme. So with the new season, with season 6, I knew it was going to be like emotional, and there was going to be like a lot of memories sort of wrapped up in seeing the Kids in the Hall show back. But I got through the cold open okay, which the cold open is them like shitting on Brain Candy, which is a great movie. It's a great movie, guys. Please stop shitting on that movie. It was them like shitting on Brain Candy, and it was Bellini sort of digging up the kids, because in the very last episode of the original sort of run of the show, Bellini buried the kids and danced on their grave. So of course he had to go dig them up. And again, the cold open, I'm fine. And then the title sequence happened, and the title sequence is a recreation of the title sequence from the classic shows, but it's just the new footage of the kids. And I just fucking lost it. And I don't know if it was having an average weekend, or if it was seeing them older and still together and like making this show once again that had meant so much to me. I don't know what it was, but I had to stop it and leave the room because it was too much. It was a lot. And I was kind of embarrassed, but I ended up going on Twitter and kind of scrolling through posts from other people. And this was a very common occurrence. So I'm really happy that it wasn't just me, that there were other people that were also just like watching the new opening sequence and just sobbing. And it wasn't a shed a tear from one eye kind of deal either. When having an average weekend, which is the name of the theme song for the Kids in the Hall, when having an average weekend started, I totally lost it. As they were all running around the stage, Kevin in his underwear and an apple in his mouth, which I think was like a continuation from the sketch. I prayed that Liz nor none of them looked over and saw me bawling my eyes out like a completely over emotional idiot. That tracks, really. There's nothing else to add to that. So here's the part of the story that kind of goes without words, because there are very few to describe the show. Dave and Kevin, of course, had a signature sketch together, while Bruce and Mark had theirs. And then there was Scott, who of course had a Buddy Cole monologue that ran over what it was supposed to. I don't remember how we knew it ran over. I'm pretty sure Scott or Buddy said that, he ran over. It doesn't matter, but of course there was a Buddy Cole sketch, because if you think the kids are going to go on tour and Scott's not going to have a fucking Buddy Cole sketch, you are sadly mistaken. Without going into too much detail, it should be noted that the Buddy Cole sketch went over amazingly well, considering we're in the Bible Belt. We were in Orlando. Orlando, in Florida in general, I don't even think we really count that as the South officially, but that's just me. But I guess if you come to a Kids in the Hall show, no matter who you are or where you are, you kind of know what to expect. There were a lot of surprises, a few old favorites, and a lot of new classics. Once the show was over, Liz and I scrambled for a bit trying to figure out where the guys might come out at. We finally settled on the lobby/bar area in front of the performance area doors. We waited a while for a single clue that they were still in the building, much less coming out to meet and greet fans. I began to think we might be in the wrong place, or not get to see them at all, until we saw David Himmelfarb come out and coolly survey the area and people in that way that only he can. Shortly afterwards, just like clockwork, the kids start to file out. Dave was first. I remember this so clearly. And Liz may dispute this, but I've always maintained that like David Himmelfarb came out and he saw Liz and like he was like, all right, the kids are coming out. I think, again, Liz had been to a lot of shows, and I think she had met Himmelfarb at that point. So I fully hold Liz responsible for the kids coming out that night, because I don't think they were coming out every single night, or like they weren't all coming out every single night. So yeah, Liz can dispute that, or like, say that that's not true, but that will always be true to me. I think her presence there allowed me to meet the kids. Dave Foley was absolutely amazing and the most comfortable to me to talk to. I think that's a lie. Thinking back on that moment, I think because he was like the first kid that came out, and because Dave had been so villainized up until this point by everything that went down on Brain Candy. So the greatest thing about the new documentary, Kids in the Hall Comedy Punks, is that it sort of corrects the narrative, for me anyway, around Dave during the whole production of Brain Candy. So at this point, meeting Dave and him being the first kid, I was super nervous because I just had in my head that, like, I knew he wasn't like mean or anything, or he wasn't going to tell me to fuck off, or he wasn't going to be an asshole, but I was kind of intimidated by Dave just because of the narrative that had kind of formed around him that hadn't truly been cleared up at that point. I stood back for a few moments and just watched him interact with fans. And when I finally found a break in his socializing to go up to him, he made me feel at ease enough to ask him for a hug after the picture was taken. I admittedly had some preconceived notions about Dave, none of which are important now, but I stand completely and happily corrected. The thing that stands out the most about Dave, with the exception of those crazy, fantastical blue eyes of his, is his warmth. I'm pretty sure Dave's always been that way, whether his very friendly nature was a product of his slight intoxication or not. He always made eye contact with me when I was talking to him, and he touched my arm when he talked to me, and that caught my attention. I don't remember the arm touching thing, but I do remember him being like very attentive and me feeling Dave being very good at making you feel like you're the only person in the room, and like talking with you and actually having a conversation with you and listening to you. That wasn't something I was expecting. We all know what I was expecting. I was expecting him to like be a bit of a diva. I don't know, but I'm happy that I had all of those expectations not met. Okay, so you know how twitchy and semi-awkward Bruce McCullough comes off on the show or anything else he's ever been on? He's totally like that in person. He absolutely is. He is so... He's a weird little man. Like, that's the only thing. He's very warm and he's very nice, and I think I go on to say that, but he's so odd, and it was only made odder by like my encounter with him, which I will go into. He's got this unworldly intensity to him that will absolutely maul you over if you're intimidated by it. He was the only kid who distracted me to the point where I forgot to ask for an autograph. Don't get me wrong, Bruce is very sweet and humble and totally gave me his full attention while I was rattling off about something from ages ago that seemed like a good idea at the time to bring up. But you can immediately tell that his brain works about 9,000 times faster, better, and more efficiently than yours does or ever will. His gears never stop turning, and I'll bet 30 Helens, ooh, I really thought I was clever there, that he probably has started and finished outlining his next brilliant project while you're digging through your purse or canvas satchel, that comes back, for a Sharpie. I can honestly say that no matter how accurately you think you have him pegged, you don't truly even begin to get Bruce until you've met Bruce, and you definitely need to meet Bruce. Oh, man. Okay, so here's what happened. In 2003, Bruce McCullough had a website called Brucio.com. This was his official website. And every now and again, he would have a feature where he would answer emails that he got. And so in one of these posts where he was answering emails, he answered mine. And in my email, I had asked Bruce if he had never met the kids and like wasn't in Kids in the Hall and he wasn't who he was, like what would he be doing? And so Bruce answered in the most Bruce way possible, in which he said that he would have to like go to the river with his canvas satchel and think about it. So that was in 2003. This is in 2008. And so for whatever reason, I got it in my head that when I met Bruce, or if I met Bruce, I would bring up this fucking question that I had asked 5 years earlier. And I'm nervous as all get out because it's Bruce, and Bruce has always been the biggest inspiration for me, writing wise. And so I was nervous, and I think I was trying to sort of convey that, that he had been a huge inspiration for me. But I was also like trying to tell him that the show was great, and I was also trying to tell him like whatever. I was going so fast, and I was also trying to bring up that question from 5 years earlier, and I thought I was going to be real cute and ask him if he had had time to answer it yet. And Bruce looked at me with the most just vacant stare that I've ever received from another human being. He had no clue what I was talking about. And I'm sure it made the rest of that encounter more awkward for me than it did for him. But I felt like a total jackass. And after that happened, like, I was just like, I need to get away. I need to end this encounter because I have embarrassed myself, and I just don't want to be, I don't want to be in this moment anymore. And so I forgot to ask him for an autograph for the show program. And for like, I think for months I was like, Bruce McCullough fucking hates me, and like he thinks I'm the biggest fucking jackass on the planet. The good news is it's been 14 years, so Bruce most likely doesn't remember me. He doesn't remember that encounter, and I no longer worry about like how awkward it was or how he may have felt. So that's good. Time erases most embarrassments. Scott Thompson has a very powerful presence to him. For many reasons I don't think I need to go into. I thought it was going to be an overbearing one. So this, I made assumptions about Scott kind of solely based off of Same Guy's New Dresses. He is a lot in that film. He's not like unlikable or anything, but he is in full Scott Thompson mode. He felt like he was going to be like a very big sort of overbearing personality, but he was super, super sweet. And I went on to say that Dave was second to him as far as like what my expectations were and like how I was sort of prepared to walk away from meeting both Dave and Scott and being slightly disappointed or not having like an experience that I want to talk about. But they were both just amazing, and I'm never been happier to be wrong about people in my life. I didn't pull this out of my ass, kiddies. He's Scott Thompson, and I own a copy of Same Guys Who Dresses. But he wasn't, at least not for me. I believe if I would have said anything that would have inspired something more than the going through the motions dialogue and conversation we had, Scott and I could have talked for hours and probably about anything. So next is Kevin. And I think I wrote this in the order that I met everyone. So it says, I don't have a favorite kid, but if I had to pick one to shrink and make pocket size and carry around with me, it would definitely be Kevin McDonald. I'm so happy that I've stopped lying about this, about not having a favorite kid, because I do, and it is Kevin McDonald. So from this point forward, if you come up to me and you ask me who my favorite member of the Kids in the Hall is, and I start my sentence with, I don't have a favorite kid, I'm about to lie to your fucking face. It is absolutely 100% Kevin McDonald, and it has been for like years and years and years. And I think I always felt bad about saying that I had a favorite kid, because it felt like it was like discrediting and not giving the other kids their credit for how funny they are and how essential they are to that group dynamic. But I've learned now that I don't think having a favorite kid means that it negates like everything else that the other kids do. It just means that you connect with that person's their comedy or their personality or their just overall whatever, like on another level. And so I think that's Kevin for me. He is my favorite kid. let the record show. When you first approach Kevin, your whole demeanor changes to kind of match his, whether you realize it or not. The other guys are pretty steady and have fallen into a flow of meeting and talking with fans over the years, but I think Kevin's still trying to break into his newfound outgoingness, so he's soft-spoken and a bit fumbly, but he's so damn sweet and completely interested in what you're saying and just fucking precious. Yeah, so now that I've read that, I do remember watching Kevin and him feeling like he was sort of just trying to work through shyness and trying to work through not being totally comfortable. Not in like a he doesn't want to be there type way. It was just like he just felt kind of awkward and like, you know, like he didn't really know how to approach people. I think a lot of that had something to do with sort of Kevin's confidence level, like just throughout the years of him being in the kids. I think there are sketches about it. It's not a secret that Kevin feels he is the most like overlooked kid.
Hi, we're the kids in the hall. I'm Mark. This is Dave, Bruce, and Scott.
Hi. And Kevin.
So what's next for the four of you?
5 of us, actually.
Well, I guess we're just gonna take it easy for a while. Mark, Dave, Scott, and I.
And Kevin, I'm here. There's 5 of us. They love me in France.
So I maybe that contributed to that. Maybe I am just going way, I'm just not even in the ballpark of what was going on with Kevin at that point. And so last was Mark. Mark McKinney was the wild card kid for me. I knew meeting him could either go extremely well or straight to hell. Bars. It's never been Mark's talent that's eluded me. I've always known Mark was insanely gifted comically, and more than any of them had the ability to get the most lost in the characters he played. I've even said in the past that I thought Mark would be the most successful at improv or stand-up because he's got dynamite timing and a sharp, quick wit that is more often than not pure genius. But he's the kid that I never really got a feel for personality-wise for whatever reason. So getting to see how great and genuine he is firsthand was a moment I felt very lucky to have and hope to have again in the future. Mark had a glow about him to me. Maybe it was the feelings from the show, but he just felt happy to be where he was, talking to the people he was talking to, being in the moment he was in, and that was super refreshing and in the best way to wrap up meeting the kids. Mark was so great. He is so charming and so warm, and you just immediately just feel like you've known him your entire life when you go up to him. Like Scott has that same quality. But I was most surprised to sort of feel that way with Mark. You'll notice in the picture, first of all, I am smiling the widest in my picture with Mark. And that's because he was like, as he had his hand around me, he was like slowly like squeezing to bring me in closer to him, and which just made me laugh, and I'm sure he was also like saying something because he looked like he was like mid-sentence or something during the picture, but he is just so sweet. I just loved every single moment that I had with Mark, and I don't remember a single word I said to him outside of like, can I get a picture? But he was lovely, and I'm pretty sure he also recognized Liz, so that just made him more open. Actually, I think, again, I give Liz full credit for this, because I think in addition to them just all being very nice, I think there was a certain level of openness that they had when they were meeting me, because I was with Liz and they recognized Liz. I've said often that having her there gave me instant credibility, because they, she was kind of, like one of the VIPs of that tour, with her going to as many shows and meeting the guys and kind of establishing a rapport with them. So, yeah, I think having Liz there made it just a lot easier for them to kind of be more open with me and immediately kind of, you know, be welcoming. Not that I felt they would be not welcoming if I wasn't there with Liz, but it made the experience like feel, you know, a bit different, you know, in a good way, of course. So this is just, you know, the last couple of paragraphs of this. On the way out of the door, I made a point to take a mental snapshot. By this time, Dave and Scott were the only ones still hanging around in plain view. Dave was leaning on the bar, toasting a girl from a small group of people, probably in agreement to some bitter conversation that had passed between them. And Scott, he was on the opposite side of the room, leaning against the wall with a group of people around him in a half circle. So to Dave, Bruce, Kevin, Mark, and Scott, thank you guys 1,000,001 times over. I thank you for inspiring and continuing to inspire me. Sketch comedy thanks you for setting its bar so high that no one's been able to even see over it yet. And a boy somewhere in the world trying on his mom's high heels for the first time, he may not know it right now, but he thanks you as well. I'm sure one way or another, directly or indirectly, you guys had something to do with that too. But yeah, that was me meeting the kids in the hall. I hope to get to do it again one day. I was so young when that happened. I feel like I just need to meet them again at my current age and, you know, with my sort of as far as I've come, you know, in my current state of mind and whatnot. Thank you for watching. If you watched all this and got through it. Again, season 6 of Kids in the Hall is on Amazon Prime right now. Please go watch it. I fucking need a season 2. I'm pretty sure it's gonna get a season 2. Right before I started recording this, I went to the Amazon website and they are right now 5th overall as far as most watched shows right now. So I'm pretty sure it's going to get a season 2, but please go watch it. I need a season 2. I need 4 more seasons and another fucking movie and tour. So yeah, go watch it. So in addition to watching that, please also watch the documentary Comedy Punks. It's so great, and I feel like it's kind of essential watching for anybody who's ever loved Kids in the Hall. So that is it. It is very late and I am signing off. So I finally made content. I finally made a video that wasn't like a fucking update video of why I haven't actually made a video. So ha!
I need my...
Don't pout.
I've got to have my...
I hate when you pout over the phone.
Secret Papa.
I know.
Secret Papa.
I hear you.
Secret Papa.
I'm Sucra Papa.
Secret Papa.